You felt the room cool instantly. Everyone else kept pretending nothing there had changed at all. Your manager's voice stayed pleasant, but the warmth drained right after you declined the extra ask. What you're seeing has a name. It is boundary retaliation, and women are often trained to dismiss it. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to decode the shift, the motive, and the signals most people miss. The first sign is usually subtle. Access changes before language does, and tone changes before consequences become official. But the real damage appears next. It shows up where plausible deniability protects everyone except the person targeted. You answer one late Slack message differently. Suddenly, the reply speed around you starts changing. You skip one optional happy hour. The invitations remain technically open, but the warmth inside them goes missing. You refuse weekend coverage once. By Monday, your manager praises flexibility in others without saying your name. Nothing looks dramatic on paper. That is exactly why this pattern survives so easily inside modern workplaces. Women are often punished without formal punishment. The penalty arrives through atmosphere, access, and changed interpretations. Imagine this. You join Tuesday's check-in, and your update gets acknowledged with a thin smile and no follow-up. The same idea that used to earn enthusiasm now lands flat, not because it weakened, but because compliance ended. If this sounds like you're weak, you're not paranoid. You're registering a behavioral change others want to keep deniable. The pain is not only exclusion, it is the confusion created when somebody stays polite while steadily reducing your standing. This is where the pattern reveals itself. Retaliation rarely starts with conflict. It starts with selective emotional withdrawal. Warmth in many offices is not kindness. It is often a reward system disguised as personality. When you say yes, you are read as easy. When you say no, you are suddenly recoded as complicated. That recoding matters because perception drives everything. Promotion narratives, calibration meetings, and informal sponsorship all begin with perception. Most women assume output will protect them. In many teams, output matters less than how comfortable others feel managing you. That is why the temperature shift feels irrational. You think the conversation was about workload, but it was about control. The no itself is rarely the real offense. The offense is showing that access to you has limits. Managers who depend on quiet overperformance notice boundaries quickly. They notice because your boundary interrupts an arrangement benefiting them. What looked like fairness is actually image management. Nobody wants to be seen punishing you, so they soften the surface. Instead of criticism, you get vagueness. Instead of direct feedback, you get phrases like, "We need more flexibility right now." Instead of saying they are disappointed, they start documenting neutral things. Attendance notes, response timing, tone, collaboration, attitude. That is how ordinary moments become reputation material. A delayed response becomes a pattern once someone wants a pattern. You may hear, "Thanks for the feedback. I'll think about it." Use it when you need time, not exposure. Once the warmth disappears, every spontaneous reaction becomes usable data. They are not meeting you anymore. They are reading you. This is why the smartest move is not over-explaining. Over-explaining often gives the room more material than clarity. Boundary retaliation thrives in environments obsessed with harmony, especially places where honesty would damage the brand of leadership. The manager still says supportive things, but support becomes private language while opportunity becomes public scarcity. You are praised one-on-one, then bypassed in the room where visibility matters. That split is not accidental. Imagine this. A promotion cycle opens and suddenly your stretch work is called team effort instead of leadership. You ask a clarifying question in a meeting. Later, someone describes your tone as surprisingly sharp. That is another hidden mechanism. Women are often evaluated for emotional effect long before actual performance is evaluated. Once warmth is withdrawn, your tone gets heavier. The same sentence now carries a reputation tax. Here's where many viewers will recognize themselves. You became reliable enough to use, but not safe enough to elevate. If you have seen this happen after one boundary, tell me in the comments what changed first. Was it the Slack silence, the meeting energy, or the sudden obsession with your collaboration style? Your answers matter because the first signal is often collective. Several small changes create one unmistakable emotional climate. And if this pattern feels familiar, subscribe and turn on the bell. These shifts are easier to survive when named. It is structural. Modern offices reward people who protect workflow, leadership image, and the illusion of voluntary sacrifice. When you stop donating extra labor, somebody has to absorb the cost. That is when warmth becomes conditional. Conditional warmth is powerful because it trains self-correction. Many women say yes again just to restore emotional normalcy. That self-correction looks voluntary from the outside, but inside, it is a response to social pressure and strategic ambiguity. But here's what makes this worse. Once you chase the old warmth, you confirm that warmth can regulate you. That is why the second no often triggers a sharper response. The first boundary tested them. The second teaches them. They learn you are not resetting into old access patterns, so the consequences become more organized. Maybe your project gets reassigned for efficiency. Maybe your PTO request receives extra questions nobody else gets. Maybe a coworker suddenly forgets to copy you. Maybe a manager starts using delayed feedback as leverage. None of these moments alone look fatal. Together, they create narrative gravity around your competence and attitude. What you thought was incompetence is actually strategy. Confusion can be useful when somebody wants deniability more than resolution. If they confronted you directly, they would need a reason. If they cool the environment, you start policing yourself. That is cheaper for them. The labor of decoding shifts from the organization onto your nervous system and attention. You start replaying meetings at night, not because you're weak, but because the pattern never arrives cleanly enough. Here's a phrase that protects you. I want to make sure I understand. Could you clarify the metric? Use it when feedback turns atmospheric. Specificity forces people to leave the fog and step onto observable ground. If they resist specifics, notice that. Vague criticism usually serves power better than measurable expectations do. The next sign is the one most women miss completely. The problem is narrowing information flow, not colder language. You hear decisions later than everyone else. You are looped in after alignment has already finished elsewhere. Pre-meeting conversations happen without you. Then you enter the room already one sentence behind the consensus. That one sentence delay matters. In political environments, timing controls whose judgment appears strategic and whose appears reactive. Imagine this. A reorg rumor starts circulating and everyone seems prepared except the person who recently set a boundary. You are told, I'll check my notes and circle back. Then the circle back never actually comes. Warmth disappearing is not only emotional, it often signals that informal access is being redistributed away from you. And without access, even strong work becomes harder to defend. You cannot respond early to stories you never heard forming. This is especially dangerous during performance review season. Reviews are often written from memory shaped by emotion, not just metrics. If someone feels inconvenienced by your boundary, that feeling can leak into words like resistant, rigid, or difficult. Here's what to watch for next. People stop describing you as helpful and start describing you as intense. Helpful implies utility to them. Intense implies a problem others must monitor, discuss, and quietly defend against. That linguistic pivot is not random. It converts your self-respect into an interpersonal burden. It warns others how to position around you. Once a woman is framed as difficult to work with, neutrality disappears. Coworkers may become less generous, not because they hate you, but because social cues tell them where safety lives. This is why many women feel isolated before any formal issue appears. The group senses ranking before paperwork arrives. You may hear concern dressed as support. Questions about burnout, fit, communication style, or your long-term goals suddenly multiply. Notice the sequence. They rarely ask those questions when your unpaid flexibility benefits the system. After you say no, they become curious about your engagement. That curiosity is often political, not compassionate. If a PIT or documentation phase begins, do not fill the silence with confessions. Clarity matters more than honesty here. Say, can you put that in writing for me? Then watch who becomes uncomfortable with documentation. Say, I prefer to discuss this when we have time. That buys space when pressure is meant to rattle you. Say, "I'll check my notes and circle back." That protects precision when pressure is being used against your composure. But the deeper layer is this: disappearing warmth is often a test of whether you still need their approval. If you scramble, the system relaxes. If you stay calm, the system often escalates before it adapts. That escalation can look like exclusion from high-visibility work or increased scrutiny around small, ordinary mistakes. You may become the person asked to prove what others are allowed to imply. That is reputation burden, not fairness. That is why competence alone does not fix this pattern. Competence can actually finance disrespect when boundaries are being challenged. If this sounds brutally familiar, it is because many organizations reward availability more than judgment. So what is the defense move here? Not aggression, and definitely not a dramatic confrontation that feeds the story. The defense move is strategic observation. Start tracking sequence wording, audience, timing, and what changed after your no. Keep notes on meetings, Slack exchanges, priorities, and who was present. Patterns gain power when they stop living in memory. Watch for feedback that expands when you resist and softens when you overdeliver. That is behavioral conditioning, not leadership. Pay attention to who benefits from your compliance. The hidden beneficiary usually reveals the hidden mechanism. If information starts narrowing, widen your map quietly. Build relationships laterally, not only vertically, before reputations harden. Do not overshare your fear, but do not isolate inside it while the story is still moving. When a manager says, "We just need team players," ask yourself what behavior that phrase is actually requesting. Is it collaboration, or is it obedience without documentation? The difference will shape your next 6 months. If layoffs, a reef, or a reorg are nearby, read the temperature carefully. Warmth often disappears before formal risk surfaces. The same is true before promotion decisions. Access tightens first, then narratives settle, then outcomes appear predetermined. And yet the most painful realization comes later. Sometimes the person withdrawing warmth liked you best without edges. They preferred the version of you that absorbed overflow, softened conflict, and never required them to adjust. Your no did not reveal your failure. It revealed the exact terms of their comfort and access. Once you see that, the confusion starts lifting. You stop treating the chill like mystery and start reading it strategically. So look at your own workplace closely. After your last boundary, what changed first? Tone, access, visibility, or reputation? Tell me in the comments what disappeared. Was it warmth, information, sponsorship, or the benefit of the doubt? And if you want language for patterns like this, subscribe and turn on the notification bell now. Because the women who survive these systems are not always the loudest. They notice early and name clearly. When warmth disappears after no, believe the data before you believe the performance. That is how you keep your footing. The cold is not always truth. Sometimes it is just control losing easy access to you.